Nso Faranso ayen manyam kirave bimi wa ave you know chipe the one so yen machi panave you know the one so
For the first, so I'll take four questions in a block, and after that, I think we answer those four, and then we'll move to the other one. So please just help and make the questions very straight and brief so that everyone will be able to talk. I think many people have come here to talk as well. So the first four people I see on the screen are, there's Eric, there's Killian, there is Robert, and there is Shay Donap. So on Basi. So I'll start with Eric, please. If you can hear me, go ahead and ask your question.
Thanks, Shaban, for giving me the floor. Eric here from Ireland. Taakifu, congrats. Yeah, your presentation was really impressive. Sorry, are you getting me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, yeah. Okay. Yeah. So thanks. It was a very good presentation there. My question is just on as regards the existence of cooperatives. I don't know, do we really have some sort of like Nso cooperative that we had before? I do understand there was something existing like that before, because following through with Clement's presentation, I think the main point that I got from it was the integrated value chain. And if we do have some sort of say like Nso cooperative which functions like an umbrella and an anchor to get this value chain working, that would be impressive. So my question straight away is to to him or maybe to any other person is if there is an existing structure of such, and how, and if there is if it's not in existence, how with his local knowledge. Because I believe Clement is somebody who has worked extensively in the banking sector and also with agricultural groups on the ground. What does he propose as a solution towards the creation of such an entity? Thank you.
Great. I hope Clement got your question and jotted it down. So the next person on the screen with a question, Killian, President of Banin, please go ahead. You are on. You can unmute yourself.
If we're looking at setting up this agro businesses, if we start looking at 250 youths, are we looking to set up businesses that incorporate these youths working together, or are we looking at them working as individuals? Because once we dilute them to them working as individuals, it might not be possible for them to set up anything significant that can compete on any national level. So what I was going to be suggesting is that we set up these things as probably like 5 or 6 businesses that can have the economy of scales. They can set up irrigation schemes and do things on a much larger scale. They can train people to do a lot more than if we just have one person doing that thing. So it's about asking whether we're looking at these as individuals setting up the schemes, or are we looking at larger businesses that can make people working together and being able to bring resources together and do a lot more than we've done in the past.
Great. Okay, thank you so much for your question. Let's move to Dr. Robert.
Yeah, thank you very much, President. My question actually goes in the same direction as Eric's. So, I mean, the last table that Taakifu presented is very clear as to what Nsoda's role is going to be. But I think that most of these endeavors have maybe failed because we just send the youth out and there is no accompanying team behind. So I would join Eric to say we need to set up something that accompanies them. For instance, Taakifu did not insist very much, maybe he said, maybe I missed it, but he did not insist very much on mechanized agriculture, which I think is very, very important. So if you take mechanized agriculture, for instance, Nsoda would need to take lead on getting the tractors because the individual farmers on themselves will not be able to afford such things. So the project that NSO is putting into place should be able to produce some of those things that these individuals would need to be able to be as productive as we want them to be. So if we have all of these things within the platform, then these individuals would use. I mean, so my question is, I don't know if Taakifu thought about these things and how he intends to have those included in the program. Thank you. Okay,
thank you. So the last question for this set will come from Shay Don Koshu Wabasi. Please unmute and go ahead if you can.
Okay, thank you, Ban. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thanks. Thank you, Taakifu, for that brilliant presentation. My worry is on the soil fertility in our in our division. I've not studied various types of soil enrichment, whatever, in Cameroon, but I know from my own little experience that our farmers put in a lot, but they have very little harvest because of the natural nature of our soils. Is there anything we can do in that direction? Because without very fertile soil, I think we will still be laboring in vain. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Wambasi. So, yeah, Taakifu, Yuyun, Clement, I think we have the 4 questions. You can go ahead and answer them in the order that suits you then. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much, President Banji. Thank you, Eric, for asking about the existence of cooperatives. To the best of my knowledge, we still have Jangi groups, we still have cooperatives operating in SO. We used to have community development and all of that. We also have Nso Youth. But the relevance of these structures is no longer there because they only provide hand to mouth. We have to go a step further and create a revolution. Then we must structure it to reflect globalization. Okay, so even the cooperative that exists, they don't have proper leadership. The governance is not well structured. So all of that, you can't rely on whatever is existing to do anything significant. So you need structures that are more organized. Just leadership and financial management, those are little things that when we talk to our people, you realize it will change a lot in terms of everything. Just the right leadership can change a lot. So I would say they exist, but sincerely, they can't do much. About the issue of one person or a group of youths working together, I just gave an example for the guy in Bear. That was just an example. Sincerely, for us to create an impact, even the ambience that exists in these young people working as a group, you cannot imagine it. I told you that in plantation farms in Yaoundé, they have mahjong groups that are more powerful than what you have at home. These are top guys sitting there with good leadership and so on and strength. So if we are going back, the challenge we have is that first, our land is not totally flat. Okay, so maybe in order to do something very significant, you have to go down to the plains, as I said, and there are traditional authorities have a lot of work to do because sincerely, there is a lot of quarreling back home that is unnecessary. But we have to play a role that brings the traditional authorities together. This is, the past, I don't know, 1,000 years. We have sunshine that is free of charge. We have the more plain there. Why is it not exploited? There is a problem, So this is where we can now group these youth and make it more. But in the case where we cannot, because there are, when we do research, coming to the question of research, which Tower Embassy asked, of course, we will not just engage. If we go to do these things, we have to, first of all, crops are adapted to what we want to do. And if you go to Tadu or Kai, the temperatures are lower. You won't take what can be grown in Berry to Tadu. So you have to, and if you go there, it might be difficult to have a patch of land that is continuous. Therefore, you might have to, look at individual farmers, their capacities, and then finance them as individuals, but in reality, it's a conglomerate, like, you know. So that also where we don't have an large expanse of land, we can go ahead to handle those who are willing, because some people will have land and they are not interested at all. Some people are interested and they don't have land, you know. So that technical team will decide. Really, I'm not going to insist on, because we can't without using machines, tractors, and even harvest with finance. It's part of the financing. That's part of the value chain. You're not just financing the guy growing crops. You're financing that guy who has that intelligence to produce something that can help in planting without a lot of stress, that can help in cracking or threshing something out of the crop. So basically, I think I've covered the 4 questions. We have talked about cooperatives, we have talked about booking the youth, we have talked about mechanizing and technical research. So thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much for those answers. So the next set of questions, I'll just appeal again for everyone to be very brief and straight to the questions so that we can move on with time. So the next set of questions, the first person that will do so is there's Abel Wingo, there is Ray, I'm sure Ray B, I'm sure that's Ray Banati, there is Taj Adamo, I'm sure that's from Douala. There is also Tani Emmanuel from Douala. So we'll take those 4 people, and then the last person will be Taolafon. So let me just start with Abel Wingo. If you can hear me, please unmute and ask your question to Taakifu Clement.
Thank you very much for giving me the floor. I will first of all thank Taakifu for his brilliant presentation. I have a worry or something about the piggery when he was mentioning. I think that when you go towards the outside now, and there are certain species nowadays which produce at least from 25 to 30. I think that it was also very necessary to try to encourage our people to practice it. And then secondly, we know towards our side we have the problem of farm agraria problem, and it has been a long issue, long time ago with farmers. I don't know how far, what steps are we going to take to try to solve that problem if we want to enter into an agriculture in a very large scale. And then thirdly, the last question, with the present dispensation of decentralization, I think that the councils are supposed to be working now with the people. It's not longer like before. I don't know whether our councils now, since it is no longer going to be like before, whether they cannot do a lot and financing all these agricultural projects. Thank you.
Anyway, Clement, I'm sure you got that and you comment, because maybe I missed the question. The next person that is going to ask is Ray. Please go ahead, and your hand is up, but I don't see your mic on. I don't know if you can hear us. While waiting for Ray's mic to come on, Taj Adamo, if you can hear me, please unmute your mic and go ahead and ask your question.
Okay, thank you, President, and good afternoon. I hope you are getting me.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. I want to thank Taakifu Clement for this brilliant presentation. And I have one question that concerns the area of the youth. He did mention the conflict we have now with human rights and child labor. If we look at the context and our background, he was talking about kids resting at home, being innovative and inventive. I wanted to ask him, how can that work in our context back home? How do we expect a mother at Mbam to keep the children home and go to the farm, perhaps to return and discover that they have become more destructive than constructive? And perhaps so that I will not come back, I want to suggest, I heard somebody mention about the cooperative. What I was going to suggest is that this so cooperative society could be reactivated and diversified with more attention away. Coffee could still be there, but the attention should be shifted to corn, beans, and potatoes, because those are the farm products that our people depend on a lot. But unfortunately, these farm products are not harnessed. The sales are haphazardly done, and so we don't even benefit from them. Our mothers told, and they don't benefit from them. He did mention about pilot projects approach that can work at the beginning of a project he was describing. That actually I appreciated, and I have my finger on it because it falls in line with what I was describing last time. The Kingdom That Cares approach, where we have piloting done, and we can be able to specifically know what to do with our youth at a specific time. The last point I want to talk is on these technological innovations. The first time I ever saw somebody at a Tamver, he used to make equipment for mechanized bread production. And when we were talking about that, I just imagined if we were to bring 5, 10 guys who have that idea of technical knowledge. You bring one tractor, you give to them, and you tell them to undo this tractor and locally produce us one tractor. I tell you, by the time they do that, you realize that some of the things that look like mystic can be realized locally. The thing is that when people try to individualize it, this is very difficult. If you look at what happened when the COVID-19 started, just here in Douala, a team of young boys, one being an electrician, one being an electronic engineer, and so on, they came together, 8 of them, and they were able to produce ventilators. So I think if we look at things from that dimension, we can be able to undo some of the challenges we have, especially those challenges that have to do with agriculture. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Sheyadamu. Let's move to Tani Emmanuel Douala. Please ask straight question and just in line with brief so that we can.
Do you hear me now, Panji?
Okay. Okay. Just go ahead, Tani. Let me come back to Ray after. Yeah, Tani, go ahead, and after that, Ray will come in.
My name is Tani Emmanuel from Douala.
Great.
Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to contribute to this discussion with Taakifu Clement. When I looked at the pictures that he presented towards the end of his resource, I discovered that there were tractors and equipment. And I was going to contribute on that, but some people have already talked about it. But the only thing I can add there is, when you look at these big tractors, they are not adapted to our system. Besides, they are so expensive that if we have to go into it, it will shock all the capital that we need. Even banks will be frightened to finance. So I was saying that there are farming systems that can be used to get equipment that are adaptable to our environment. Small tractors, hand-driven tractors, hand-pushed tractors like the Chinese have been doing before they even developed. And in the end, even if we cannot acquire, we do an equipment pool where we get a few farmers that come together and we acquire equipment for them where they will hire for each season to do the agricultural work. In that case, we'll be solving a problem of mechanization, which is very, very, very costly. Because you see, most of the children run away from the village because of the labor. And when they go to town, they suffer. We are in Douala.
Hello.
They suffer, whereas they could have stayed back home. God be lucky. Thank you very much.
Okay. I think that was a comment. Yeah, and I'm sure Taakifu Clement will follow up on that. So the last person to ask here is Ray. Ray, your mic came back on. Please ask your question to Clement from his presentation.
All right, President, thank you so much. And it's not really much of a question. just want to appreciate the brilliant presentation from Clement, and lend him a hand, at a comment, just to encourage him. I think one of the before I even go there, like one guy mentioned one of the last speakers mentioned about pedigree, is one of the things I was going to cite as an example in this type of enlarged community effort, which Clement is talking about. You realize that the pigs that are reared in or boy division, they are being sold or they are bought by family case. They come in every week and they get this pig to the market. So if this effort could just go as what one of the ideas like he's pushing in, can just go to kind of put these farmers together, so that we could act like a market, kind of a selling, a commercial part of the efforts could just be to group these farmers together and then find a market, so that all the farmers, instead of selling these things to the middle guys who are making a bulk of the money, they can just have direct access to a market, to sell their products right down to Douala or export them. I think that is a great way to elevating and encouraging more farmers to get engaged in agriculture. And my main point that I'm just trying to put forward to kind of support the idea and the effort presented by Clement is that if there's one thing that has been very, very successful, one business that Nso has successfully, promoted, in my opinion, that is the defunct Energy Bank. Because of that effort and the fact that Tasha was able to train a pool of people who have now become financial experts, competing internationally. Clement is here speaking. That is somebody who can, lead us into any financial endeavor. So my comment is just that, why can't we just look at this effort from the perspective that whatever we do, it ends up in financial commitment. We need money to do anything. The brilliant ideas without the finances will not go anywhere. If we can just, under the push of Onsoda, kind of clean back and see if we could just bring back all of these financial gurus and create an agro bank, credit bank. It will take time, but it's just a commitment, the engagement, and the commitment for us to come together, and people can start pulling this thing together. We know why the other efforts failed, and people like him can now be able to guide us into, building this financial structure which can cater for all businesses and promote the type of agricultural wealth or business wealth that we need in so. There's a lot of things going on, but one of the greatest hitches has been financing these initiatives in so. So if we can look at it from that level, I think that will be an effort that they can now, build and promote, encourage folks, those who are out can be able to, contribute, and those who are home and experts like Clement, can be able to build that infrastructure, to be able to support not only agricultural farming and so, but equally commerce. So that's my point. I think it's a great discussion, and Clement, I hope you can, sit on the steering, build it together so that we can have a much more elaborate and detailed conversation. There's more to talk, but I just wanted to put this point in support of what his presentation that he just provided to us. Thanks so much, man. Great presentation.
Great. Thank you so much for that input, Ray Banatif. Let's go ahead and have Clement comment on that, and then I'll just take the last. I see there are 4 people left. I will just ask Lawi Mohammed, Lafon, and Walkoff, and Boli. You people should get ready, but I'll allow Taakifu Clement to comment on what has come up so far, and we'll try to catch up with time after his response.
Thank you, President. Question on pedigree, which is very interesting. As I said, part of this vision is for us to invest also in research, identify those value chains or those sectors that can create immediate economic value. And pedigree clearly is one of them. It's not even cow or cattle rearing, it's pedigree. Because within a short time, you can be able to generate a lot of value and so on. So that committee is all of this, or be able to identify. We must not involve all the sectors. Just identify 2, 3, 4, 5 sectors that within a short time can make a difference. So these examples I was giving was just emphasizing on wide need, because while we are doing all of this, we are not, so itself constitutes a huge market. What are our people consuming? You know, they buy fish that has spent months and years in the refrigerators, whereas in our backyard, using machines, we can rear fishes, freeze them, and sell them cheaper to our people. So this example, and even the piggery and poultry and so on, why can we not transform? Why must we sell those things live to Bamileke people? If they are buying those things already processed, packaged, labeled, and so the value is different. We shouldn't, you know, and the fact that they are coming to the market and buying from desperate mode. Imagine somebody came from Cook and is selling a pig in the market, and it's 6 p.m. a Bamileke man is standing there. This guy has an animal that is weighing, God knows, maybe 30 kilograms. He's bound to sell to this Bamileke guy at the cheapest rate because no structure has protected him. Okay? So if we have where these things are commercialized in a professional way, first of all, clean and even processed, we can sell live animals, we can process these things, and then the value added is reasonable. So piggery is one of the areas that I think is clear. Farmer grazer problems, I think we talked about it. I won't belabor the point. If you are working, let's take an Mboro person who is a neighbor to a farmer. If this Mboro person knows that this farmer depends on my cow dung and he pays for the cow dung, you see, the guy will look at it, he will look at it differently before being aggressive to you. The farmer right there doesn't know that that cow dung is better than the fertilizer he's waiting for a white man to send after 3 months, which is more expensive and even more damaging to his health. Okay? So if we get into the middle and teach these people, that conflict will reduce. The councils, somebody talked about the councils, still the first question. Of course, I said that this is the opportunity, it's an opportunity for us. Whoever is the mayor there cannot throw this vision out of the window. None. I don't see any mayor in the Chatiri, Kumbu, Nkum saying that he has nothing to do with agriculture. They have a budget for it. They have the technical know-how to help us. So we just need to, it's a low-hanging fruit that we must pluck. Child labor, Shea Adamu talked about it. How are we going to manage it? You see, when you bring in mechanization and the parents are able to use these machines to produce, why would they use children? You know, at the very beginning, it's difficult to move them from that practice. But when you show them clearly that there's an alternative, and you remind them that somebody is coming 7 years going to the farm at 5 a.m., it is incorrect. It's morally wrong, first of all. You know, these things they just do. I know that some of us grew in this and it helped us. I mean, I wouldn't have been anything without knowing those things. But times have changed. That child should be reflecting and building a machine that will transform his life. You know, or anything project. Okay, that one, as we said, we'll learn from. We cannot embrace all the 750. We can even start with less. Maybe when that committee comes in, they will be able to say, okay, 250 is too much. Let's start with 50, group 50 people and do something for 2-3 crops and see how it works before we go to the next. It's all about risk management. We just need to look at it. I want to appreciate the intervention of Tafsani Emmanuel. He made a comment on tractors. You know that that is his domain. He worked in Taakifu for many years. And when we come to this, these are the kind of the quality of resources, the people that will be consulting for advice. So I don't really have much to comment on that other than thanking him for his view. Ray Banafti, was very clear about eliminating middlemen. Eliminating middlemen. We have to stop it. Those guys are not coming with very honest views. They are not coming with honest intention. They are coming to, to corner these people and buy cheaply from them because we find that we are desperate. But if they see an organization in front, they see that we are structured, they see that we are different, the price will be different. Okay. Ray also advised about the creation of the bank. I won't speak much on that, but when we start, all these ideas, will come over time since we cannot handle many things at the same time. If we improve on the capacities of the banks that we have right now and encourage them to, look at this sector differently, then from there, some of them can be transformed to bigger banks that can do bigger things. You have to understand that transformation. If you have to kill fowls and transform and package them, you need machinery for all of that. And the financing cannot be the local deposits that we have in SOC. We must do for long-term financing. But we must accept that we want to transform. If we decide today that we want to transform the 30% of chicken that is produced in SOC into packages, we can do it. We want to say that no toothpick consumed or used in SOC should come from anywhere else apart from a child that we have trained to sharpen these things and put in plastic. I mean, it's not something that I think is very difficult. We use a ruler made in China, that yellow thing that we use. Very disgraceful when I think about that. It's not right. We have these trees and we can get kids to claim these trees instead of taking. Okay. I wanted to also repeat again to say that when you find somebody selling Foviri in squares or corn beer, that person is in agriculture. Why that corn beer has just 24, 48 hours to live, and there are people in in the neighboring division that like to consume that. How can we then conserve it in a way that somebody can buy in a clean, hygienic way and consume it even months after? These are all things that can be white stuff. We have it. Why is it that it has only 24 hours to live to be faithful? Yet we have storage mechanisms with solar energy and storage systems. These things can be stored even in their natural form, so that when we want to do our libations, you don't start complaining that the white stuff is fermented and all of that. So I'll end there, and I think I've taken so much time. Sorry for that, guys. Thank you, President.
Right. Yeah. Thank you again for those answers. I think it's because this is a very exciting topic and everyone wants to contribute something. And I would just remind people that we should remember that this is not all. So after these discussions will continue, and especially if someone have really high interest, please indicate, and especially to also that when we are working with committees, we know you are available, and especially you can, at the end of this presentation, we'll have the slides and definitely the contact for Clement as well. So I will be asking Dr. Robert to be getting ready while the next 4 sets of questions come in, and immediately we have that, we'll just switch to the next call. This has gone for almost an hour. I hope it's not too heavy on you, Clement. So let's just have, I see, so the next people we have will just be Lawil Mohammed, Walkoff, Boli, and I think the last person will be Valerie. So please, Mohammed, if you can hear me, please unmute and go ahead and ask your question, please.
Okay, I can hear you. Thank you so much, Taakifu, for the wonderful presentation. And my question is basically in relation to the concerns Wombasi raised earlier about the fertility of our land. While I didn't quite get the response to the question he had asked, so I was basically wondering if the efforts of these projects are limited to projects only carried out in the Nso line. And the reason I asked this is because I was talking with someone who has farmed in places like Kefam and Bo. These are places we consider very fertile back home, and who was somewhere, out of Nso line. And they were basically telling me that what they're able to produce, when he looks at the Nso line, he thinks that it is barren. And so basically my question is, if a youth were to draw up a project and say that he has found a place outside on Nso line you know, where the same efforts probably will yield twice what what he would have achieved in total. And also the fact that the products are closer to the market, right? Like he wouldn't have to transport them from top to wherever he wants to sell them. Will this person still be funded?
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much for your question. The next person is Walker from Shoulders. Andy, please go ahead and ask your question.
We would like to appreciate.
Great.
Hello?
Yeah, go ahead. We can hear you now.
Yes. First of all, I would like to thank Taakifu for the wonderful presentation. Agriculture is something that touches some of us in the heart. My question is, why do we have to take 12 months to do a feasibility study? Why so long?
Okay. Great. Thank you so much for that question. The next one is Boli. If you can hear me, unmute and go ahead and ask your question.
All right. Thank you very much, President, for giving me the floor. Congrats also to Mr. Clement for the wonderful presentation. I do not have a question per se, but I want to make a contribution to share some experience that I have had with these kinds of programs. And very often you have had models that have been implemented like this in the world. I can call upon everyone to check up on the Korean model, which is called Samuel Undong, which basically is a model that transformed Korea from a similar economic situation like Cameroon in the 60s to, you know, the country which it is today just within 10 years. So it's an intense community development program. So usually when in a program like this, the things that Mr. Clement has said, in my opinion, are very, very important and are also at a very strategic level, where going in, there is need to do a proper needs assessment strategy, you know, to be able to identify in terms of sectors, the value chain, which are the key crops that you want to start with. You know, maybe maize, maybe coffee, maybe cocoa, or soya beans, I don't know. And also looking at it from the point of which are the key value chains that you want to develop, all right, right from production right to commercialization, but also selecting in terms of agricultural basins. So often it's also about identifying like Mbonso, you know, which is a very huge basin, for example, and you're testing some of these models there very easily and seeing how they can work, understanding the problems really quickly and having a very innovative team that can be able to solve challenges that are faced by farmers, challenges that are faced by the transporters, challenges that are faced by the people producing and selling the entrants, you know, fertilizer and all that, and challenges that are faced at the market level. So how do they sell and where do they sell it? I think Mr. Clement did mention about this. So you must not take food that you can still process it and add value to it before selling. You know, so drivers that you want to ensure in a program like this is piloting particular sectors, particular crops, piloting particular basins, and ensuring that the leadership is very good, it's very important. Ensuring that information management is essential because you have funding coming from different organizations. You have, of course, in an ideal situation, you would have the councils extremely involved. You have individuals putting in their money. You have some other also putting in their money and the leadership. And you have many people having their eyes there. So there is possibility for people to say what is not really existing or not say it the right way. And you want to ensure also that the way information is diverse or shared outside, it's very precise and it's the right one at the right time. Also, it's an issue of change management because you have many farmers whom you want to involve them in new management, new farming techniques. And these are people that have been using hoes for a very long time. These are people that you want them to start using tractors, but hey, if I'm a grandfather and I am 9 years old, I may not necessarily have 3 months to sit in a class and start learning how to use a machine. So how do you get that person to be interested enough to want to use that machine? What model do you use? Do you say you can rent it or do you want to teach him itself? So that is those are the kinds of processes that you bring about in change management. Also, you have capacity building that you have to keep on teaching the farmers how to innovate, how to evolve, how to try new things, and very importantly, how to encourage them to say, we want to do bigger, better, and bigger and wider. And another driver would be incubation. So it's about having many youth involved in agriculture and producing faster, higher yields and selling at higher cost. So again, it's not that these projects are already ready to go. You have people who are still testing into the whole project management business cycle for the very first time. So the money which is already in place can be lost because you're putting it to people who do not know how to function in a bankable situation. So you know that you have cost, you have profit, you have expenditures, and you want to test in incubation phases to understand for 3 months, for 6 months, for 9 months, those that are coming in with their projects and master the challenges that there are at the level of identification and coaching, mentoring, and support, and also know how to scale it up. But also at innovations level, let's not forget that the whole point was to increase income for the community. So it's not also about going to use the little resources we have to get mechanized equipment from China. That's a lot of money going out. But this is where leadership comes into Nso, that could be able to launch calls for innovative, small scale, rich farming equipment, bigger. I think there's someone who was trying to develop an helicopter who can also, with that engineering technology, be able to produce some small, mechanize something for irrigation or harvesting or things like that. And through these, the ingenious people we have at home that are doing wonderful works in building dams or in building electricity can produce those kinds of equipment that our income will stay within the community, and now since we are also within the community, and this is how you get to keep the income around, so it keeps circulating, not buying necessarily outside, but also very importantly, it's a digital age, and this is why we're talking in through Zoom right now. Information management is extremely important, and farmers who are producing crops want to know that they can sell it at the right price and to the right people. What makes those farmers to sell their pigs, for example, at low prices is because they do not really know how much it costs in Gabon. They do not know how much it costs to transport that product from Bamenda to Gabon or to Equatorial Guinea or to whichever country it is. So platforms exist already now that you want to enroll the people whom you're piloting the program with, who are benefiting from that program, to know market prices of products, to know market prices of services that they need, to know market prices of different kinds of intrants that they need for their farming. And this is where the leadership should be able to divert information like this to everyone so they know. And so competition is driven in terms of strength and knowledge sharing rather than in terms of jealousy and all of that. So I just wanted to add some of these things in which are usually success cases for these kinds of programs in similar places across the world. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that contribution, Bolly. I will just switch out to Valerie, please. If you can make it brief, or if you have just a question, that's great. If it's a long comment, maybe you can reserve it and we can have it right at the end. But please go ahead and ask just a question so that we wrap up and we move to the next presentation.
Thank you very much, President.
Yeah.
Not a question, but comment, but I promise you very brief. I know how to do brief comments. First thing, thank you very much for the presentation, Senior Taakifu, Yuyun. I like the way you elaborated on everything, but I would just like to add something more. I would like to say that if we're looking to such a plan, let us also take our time to look at the opportunities already existing in the community. We should highlight more on this as well. Like, I think Shumas has some training farm, and there's the veterinary school there in Jakiri, which you hardly see children there. These are already existing platforms for first skill learning or even second skill learning already. And then I would like to request that during our comments in the discussion, we should try to make them so simplified and modest so that everyone can be part of it and not keep them on very theoretic level, because it becomes difficult to follow up. Thank you.
Great, thank you for that brief comment. So I'll just go ahead and say, from all the comments and questions that came in, Taakifu, I think the first one was, if a project is out on SOR, shall we fall in? And the last one is, why should we take 12 months for feasibility studies? If you can just give some maybe brief answer to that, I'll appreciate. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, President. Now, for farms outside SOR, I will leave that to the committee that will be appreciating the risk at that time, to decide. But we already have so much arable land. We have those banks operating in SOR. It will also depend if their policies allow them to go outside the division, outside their jurisdiction to fund. But if we start at a small scale, there is no reason why we shouldn't expand. But the committee at that time will appreciate the risk and advice. Nothing is written on stone, as I said. I don't think I have anything against that. About research, we are going to do research to see first which value chain is more having more economic value, to see the fertility of each basin before we engage in. Because we want to use, the essence is to be efficient and effective. Use very little cost to produce high. So all of this has to be integrated. We have Iraq, we have to partner with Iraq. These are structures that have a lot of funding lying there, and we can export. The length of time taken to do feasibility studies, we're not taking 12 months. We said that within the first 12 months, 250 people should be ready already. But I just want to be realistic. Number one is that you should understand we are in a conflict situation, and we hope things that will be coming out. If just planning this and identifying the sources that will sit in that form, in that committee to decide. Even getting the banks to give us a letter of intent that yes, we are ready to finance agriculture in SOR. All of this you cannot, and remember the resources we are using are mostly volunteering. So to be realistic, 12 months are sufficient to, for us to at least have the first batch of people graduating. If we can do less or take a lesser period, that's fine. I mean, I don't have any trouble with that. But I'm just trying to be realistic, Boli talked about the Korean model. He was just echoing what I said about the United Nations saying that agriculture, after every conflict or any crisis, not necessarily an armed conflict, like the challenges we have now, the only thing that can take you out of the woods faster and easier is agriculture. And I want to emphasize that byproducts of whatever we're going to look at, if you look at corn, the kikiri that you have in the middle there, many people don't know that you use that to produce mushrooms. And mushrooms are of high nutritive value, So all these things are just thrown away. They are, first of all, manure. They can also be used, as an end product so that we increase the value chain. I also want to emphasize that we can leverage on the mobile money that is existing and communication to do a lot of things online. Looking at the last question, was talking about the opportunities that exist. Of course, the situational analysis that will be done will be to look at what exists, because as I said, we are not inventing here. Nothing is happening here that we don't know. It's just structuring it and making sure that we are effective and efficient so that we use little resources and create a greater impact. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Taakifu, Clement, Yuyun. Thank you so much for the presentations and the answers, and I hope all our participants really do appreciate what you have put in for today.
Imbokero, she song chera, wouldn't